Good afternoon from Bangkok International Airport, where it's a miracle I made it from the streets of Bangkok after a crazy night out for my flight today. But this is going to be something special. I'm getting 3 flights for the price of one, starting with business class and moving on to first class later on Etihad Airways. The Bangkok airport is very nice. It's basically like a giant shopping mall, and I was pretty much lost looking for the lounge, knowing that it's somewhere around here, but it turns out it's on a different level completely, and it's appropriately named the Miracle Lounge because you know what? It's a miracle that I even found it. But once inside, it's a nice welcome space with some beautiful decorations, comfortable leather seats, and a pretty good selection at the buffet. Let's make our way over to the eating area and get something to eat before our first flight today. Now, no judging me because I pretty much eat like a 12-year-old, but I was pretty happy with the selections here. I ended up going with a modest plate of, guess what? Chicken or rice. It's like I'm flying economy in the lounge, but one more tropical Fanta before we leave and some vanilla gelato. But from the lounge, I could see something really cool. My aircraft was taxiing over to the gate for today's flight over to Abu Dhabi. But first, we will be making a stop in Phuket. So, 2 flights on the Etihad 787 today. So let's go ahead and make our way down to gate C4 for today's flight. Now, Bangkok, while this airport is really cool, I'm not a huge fan of this design. I mean, it is kind of airy and open, and I like descending down to the gate, but it makes it really difficult to get shots of the aircraft. Here's the best shot that I was able to get through the window. Don't mind the reflections, but I absolutely love the livery on the Etihad 787. Welcome aboard the business class cabin. This cabin is called the Etihad Studio, and honestly, I think it's very, very underrated. Not only are the decorations gorgeous, I love the color scheme, but the seat itself is basically the same layout as the Qatar Airlines Q suite that everybody raves about as the best business class. Now, there isn't a door on this version of the seat, but it affords the same amount of personal space and storage that you would find on the Q suite. Next to us, we have a compartment with our water bottle and headphones and room for you to stuff your electronics or any other little things you might need throughout the flight. Now, while I love the decorations and look of the cabin, the one thing I'd complain about is you are kind of lined up with your neighbor, so you're looking at each other from the side. But the seat is super comfortable. Try not to worry about it too much. Enjoy the comforts of our controls for the IFE in the seat, and of course, delicious lemon mint that Etihad is known for. That can only mean one thing. It's time to push back from the gate and head to the runway for takeoff on our short flight down to Phuket on the Etihad 787-9 Dreamliner. Now, this first flight down to Phuket was so short, I didn't even bother getting any refreshments. The flight attendants offered a super quick service with a light bite and drink, but I just sat back and enjoyed the beautiful views as we descended into Phuket. Well, I don't know about you guys, but it pretty much sounded and felt like we were in a car crash on landing in Phuket. Now, I'm not sure why Etihad operates this add-on to Bangkok and Phuket, considering both destinations are pretty popular in their own right. And we were pretty empty on the flight from Bangkok to Phuket and picked up a majority of our passengers here at the airport. Now, it was pretty interesting during the ground time because I thought we might have to get off the aircraft, but no, we stayed on board and the flight attendants, more to my surprise, continued to serve us glasses and glasses and glasses of champagne. I think I had 3 or 4. Now, because this flight to Abu Dhabi is longer and will consist of the main dinner service, we were provided menus to look over options for tonight. And while we waited for everybody to get on board, I took advantage to learn all of the seat controls, which were quite extensive and amazing. Not only are there presets for all of the lie flat positions, there is lumbar support options, there's a massage function built into the seat, you can make the bottom cushion firmer or softer, and you can even control your window shades all at the touch of a button. I don't know why this seat doesn't get more love. Also, for this leg, we were provided amenity kits from Aqua de Parma. Apologize if I said that wrong. I'm not very fancy, but I do appreciate a nice bag and amenity kit. The tray table is also excellent on this flight. It's super easy to pull out. It's really sturdy. It's quite large, easy to move back and forth. Perfect. And now the bellinis have broken out. I absolutely love the pre-made bellini that Etihad serves. After some warm nuts, we are served our appetizer that consists of many different kinds of breads and Arabic mezzi, some delicious treats to get us started and in that Middle Eastern flair. To continue the trend, I went with the lamb biryani for dinner, a quite simple looking dish, but the taste was absolutely delicious. But the best part for me as a simple man was the banana bread muffin with warm hot vanilla sauce on top. I love a simple, light, airy dessert like this, and the taste was just perfect. Now that we got meal service out of the way, it's time to get some sleep on this basically red-eye to Abu Dhabi arriving about 2 in the morning. So the mattress pad, the pillow made for a very comfortable bed, and you just get really, really spoiled flying business class because before you know it, every single time you wake up and see the city lights below you. Here we are approaching Abu Dhabi, and in just a few seconds, the bright lights of central Abu Dhabi will come into view, and at that point, you know you're only a couple of minutes from touchdown in Abu Dhabi. Now, this was filmed in 2023, so we did come to the old airport and terminal, which is a bit of a bummer. I would really, really like to see the new terminal and lounge, But for now, we'll show you our descent and experience at the old Abu Dhabi International Airport. And here we are in Abu Dhabi. I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely love deplaning by stairs. Getting to stand next to these giant aircraft puts me in awe every single time. After a quick run through security, I made my way to the Etihad Airways first class lounge, where I'll be spending 5 or 6 hours on my layover, so I'm going to get really comfortable here. There is quite a large dining area, followed by the main bar. And to the right, we have a bit of a lounging area. The one thing I was a little disappointed about was there really wasn't any sleeping rooms or anything like that. The closest I could get to was this quiet room, which was full when I arrived. But by the time I waited a little bit, I was able to get in one of the recliners and catch a little bit of rest. But before I knew it, it was morning time, and I wanted to get some breakfast to fully take advantage of the first class lounge experience. So at my window side table, I started off with an absolutely delicious lamb hummus, and then I followed it up with something sweet, a nice orange cream crepe. This is really, really delicious food, some of the best quality I've ever had in a lounge, and the views out the window were quite nice as well. But today we are in for a special treat. I am flying the Etihad Airways A380, which just returned to service only a week before the filming of this video. Today I'm getting to fly upper deck first class on this behemoth over to London. Now, the biggest surprise of the day came when I boarded the aircraft and was shown my way to my seat in first class. It turned out I was the only passenger in first class today. So I basically had not only this beautiful Etihad A380 apartment to myself, I had the entire cabin to myself. The flight attendants were super friendly and happy to show me all the features of the seats, show me how you can combine all these seats and everything that goes along with it. It was basically like my own private tour of the airplane. The seat itself is a super wide and comfortable recliner. Of course, you have basically unlimited legroom with the giant couch in front of you. The TV feels like it's so far away. It's ridiculous how big this seat is for an airplane. The crew got me started on the ground, of course with a glass of champagne, as I'm ready to fully take in the Etihad first class experience. We have pillows and blankets provided as well, and just more of a look around the cabin. Once again, I'm completely taken aback by the scale of everything. There's a mini bar with drinks right here ready to go if I ever get thirsty on the flight. The little amenity area is kind of completely hidden behind this cabinet. So not only do we have our larger amenity kit than the last flight, we have this entire mirror and vanity where you can get ready. These are some of the Aqua de Parma products that came inside the kit. So always nice to have these to help stay fresh. And here's a look on the other side of the cabin. Because I was all by myself today in first class, the flight attendants basically said I could sit wherever I wanted to. It's crazy to remember that you're on the upper deck of an airplane as I walked around on my little self-tour. And of course we have a pretty large bathroom in first class, complete with a shower, which we'll take a look at later. But it was time to settle in, so I looked through the massive menu. Basically, the whole experience on Etihad is a la carte with many appetizers, main courses, desserts to choose from. There's even a smaller bite section that you can order throughout the flight. Basically, the flight attendants told me I could just let them know whatever I wanted and they would bring it to me. They also gave me this card for free Wi-Fi. Thank goodness. If you ask me, anytime you're paying money to fly In business class or first class, whether you're using points, whatever, Wi-Fi should be included. It's just crazy to charge something extra when you're paying this much for business class. Now, the one downside to the A380 is it's kind of hard to see out the windows because the airplane is just so large. So you gotta love the camera on the tail of the airplane that lets us watch a bit of our takeoff today. Now, every single time I fly the Airbus A380, I am just amazed how the aircraft just seems to float off the ground. Once we were in the air, the flight attendants began to prepare the cabin and brought me some snacks to get started, but because this was a really early morning departure, about 8:30 in the morning, I asked if we could go ahead and work towards getting everything put into bed mode, so the flight attendants brought me pajamas to get comfortable. While I waited for them to get everything ready, I enjoyed once again another delicious pre-made Bellini. I won't even admit how many of these I had on this flight. It basically never stopped. And while I waited for the flight attendants to prepare the cabin, I was just once again amazed by the amount of space and just completely bewildered that I'm sitting here. But it's time to get some rest and have lunch at a more appropriate time, so we're going to close our window shades. And since I'm spoiled today being alone in first class, while this seat is going to be my spot for relaxing and eating, the flight attendants went ahead and made my bed over here in the other cabin. So I could just go back and forth as many times as I wanted. Now, the seat on Etihad does get a little slack for being narrow and hard compared to some other first class cabins, but come on. Compared to economy, you're getting a full 6-foot plus bed. There's nothing to complain about. And I had no problems getting sleep before lunch. Now, I'm not the typical person to enjoy caviar, but when flying first class on Etihad, why not? All the fixings were delicious, and the next starter was this beautiful burrata salad. And guess what? Another Bellini, or 20, something like that. Now, the mains were a little interesting. The French fries were in a form I've never seen before, and the steak was a nice filet. The first one I got was actually a little bit overcooked, so the flight attendants brought me one later that was perfect. But the dessert was the steal of the show. This melting chocolate gold ball of whatever it was with all sorts of fruit and mousse inside. Just everything about this dish was delectable. Not only was the actual display amazing, but the taste was as well. So this was definitely a high note to end on when it comes to service on the Etihad A380. Now, this flight to London today is about 7 hours, so after lunch I still had 2 or 3 hours to rest, so I headed back over to my seat to get some more sleep. And when I woke up, the cabin was nice and dark and eased me into the last section of the flight. We'll go ahead and give ourselves a little bit more tour of the cabin. The flight attendants were actually nice enough to show me the residence, but I wasn't allowed to film or anything, but that is bucket list goals for a future flight. Before landing, we're going to freshen up, and like Emirates, you actually have a shower on the Etihad A380 with 5 minutes of running water if you want to take a shower. There's also an onboard bar in the back of the aircraft that is shared among business class passengers and first class passengers. So I was able to come here for a bit before landing, meet a couple friends before heading back to my seat for landing, just kind of appreciating the damage done by my one passenger today. Just a completely surreal experience, and it ended with icing on the cake in the form of delicious cookies and cream ice cream. I want to thank the crew on Etihad for being the most hospitable crew I've ever flown with. They basically told me whatever I needed, whatever I wanted, they would make happen. It was probably one of the more unique experiences I've ever had flying, being the only one in the entire first class cabin. If it wasn't for the few minutes that I walked back to the bar in the back of the aircraft, I would have never seen another passenger the entire flight. So here I am on an aircraft that seats, 500 plus people, and I never saw anyone. It's such a private experience. The Etihad apartment is unlike anything else in the sky. And now I really got to save up for the residence, but either way, if you can book this flight, you're up for a treat. Now, at the time of filming this in the summer of 2023, London Heathrow was the only route that Etihad was flying the A380 on. I wish I could have got more than 7 hours, but nowadays you can find it on other routes like JFK, and the rumor is there is another A380 route coming to Australia soon. Thank you, Etihad Airways, and we'll see you next time.